Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Printavo, the parent company of InkSoft, Printavo, GraphicsFlow, and SignTracker. Welcome to the webinar today, InkSoft Academy. Today's topic, and we are going to go over all the recent improvements to the Printavo and InkSoft integration. And if you're not familiar with integration is the ability to take orders that are generated in any of the three sales channels in InkSoft, which would be InkSoft Designer, InkSoft Stores, and InkSoft Proposals. And incidentally, InkSoft Proposals is just another way of framing quotes and invoices. It's just a different way of presenting a quote or an invoice. We'll get into that a little bit today as well. So we've made lots of changes and improvements. We introduced integration in the spring. We had tons and tons of feedback from customers. We've processed thousands and thousands of orders through integration across hundreds of web stores. But we're always listening. We're always trying to see what kind of input we have from you. And you guys provided a lot of input, and we've reacted. So when we first introduced integration, I said, hey, this is phase one of phase one. It's the first part of making that connectivity move between InkSoft and Printavo. It's been a huge success, but that was phase one of phase one. Now this is phase two of phase one, so which is this first set of major improvements to the integration between the two store platforms. So what you see on the screen is my favorite little store. This is my East Eagles Booster Shop e-commerce store that it's kind of my test kitchen. I use this store for testing new things, for trying new things, doing custom HTML. It's got all kinds of bells and whistles and fun things in it. A couple things that I've built into this store. I took the SNS Activewear style guide and I just used an embed to embed that in just to kind of showcase what people can do. In this store, I also took the Augusta Sportswear Uniform Builder. Augusta was kind enough to provide me with the embed code, so I embedded their uniform builder into the store. I've got the GraphicsFlow art portal embedded into the store. And then I also have the InkSoft Designer embedded into the store with custom designs, which is kind of fun. And then we also have some interesting things we've done with designs down here that are editable. So if I click on this design, which came from GraphicsFlow, I can click on that design and I can immediately begin editing and name dropping. And so what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to create an order in the store to kind of show you what integration looks like, but I also want to highlight another new feature within the platform. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop in soccer in there, and we're going to save this design, Eagles Forever. Looks like I've done a lot of soccer designs in here. And incidentally, when your customer saves a design, and if they're logged into their account or they create an account, you get an email notifying you that they've saved a design, even if they haven't checked out. And that's pretty handy if somebody's been up on the site and you see that they've saved a design, you know there's a level of interest there. When you get that email, that gives you the opportunity to follow up with that customer and see if you can secure an order. You could even go and do a proposal of the graphic that they created, put that graphic on a proposal, send them a quick quote and say, hey, listen, I saw you abandon your cart or you save this graphic, but we have a special going on these t-shirts. Here's what it would look on these 3 or 4 products. So you have the ability to do that because you can always download that artwork that they've been playing around with, which is a really kind of a cool feature of the InkSoft platform. But let's get a quote real quick. And the way this store is set up, it's set up so if I get a price for one, it's going to give me basically DTG pricing, going to be pretty expensive. But if I get a quote for a larger quantity, and we're going to go put some bigger quantities in here, then it's going to switch over to screen printing pricing based on the threshold that I put in this particular store. And we'll even put some big sizes in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get a quote now. It's pricing me at screen printing pricing. It's pulling the number of colors out of this vector graphic. That's what's determining the screen printing prices as a 3-color. A little power user tip, if you want to accommodate for white underbasing within your products in the designer, one of the things that you can do is just upcharge the dark shirts a little bit. And when you go into the products, you can add a little bit of extra buffer to the dark shirts. And a lot of times people just pad that into their pricing, which I think is a smart way to do it. So I'm going to go over here to buy now, and we're going to add this to the cart. And I probably already have other things in this cart, so let's see what's going on here. So we'll go and view the cart, see if there's anything else in there. So we got a couple different things in here. We got a field hockey design that I left in my cart. And this has been left in my cart since last week. And so what's been going on now is I'm wondering where these emails have been coming from, but I keep getting these emails saying, hey, I noticed that you had something in your cart and you haven't checked out. I just had a link so I could continue checking out. I forgot that I had put this in my cart earlier in the week, and that's why I keep getting those emails, because it's just been sitting in my cart. That's called an abandoned cart messaging, and that's a feature that we added to InkSoft last year, that you can go into your store settings and you can enable that abandoned cart, but you can do up to 3 messages within that sequence. So you could say, hey, this is the specific message I want to add. I want to do it on day 2, day 5, and day 10. Just that little nudge with a link to them going and wrapping up their cart and checking out. So this is a perfect example of these products that were sitting in the cart. If I go over here and proceed to the checkout, and this store added a little function just to kind of showcase something. Uploaded artwork that requires cleanup for production will incur a fee of $25 per graphic. Customer asked me how you would accommodate, terrible artwork. And so I put a custom checkout field in here, and it says, process my order. I acknowledge this policy. Hold my order and contact me to confirm. We added functionality within InkSoft so I could go back to this order and I could add additional fees, and I can update the order. What we're going to do here is I'm going to say, yeah, I acknowledge the policy, and we're going to click on continue. I had to click through that. Notice that my next day error here is showing up as the default. I'm going to show you how to change that to really what I want to do is do this flat rate shipping right here. Click on continue, and I'm going to arrange payment later. Because I'm logged into a demo account, it's going to give me the ability to do this every single time because I'm the admin and it's just a way for me to test stores. But this would only be available in a customer store if you enable that option. So one of the reasons that folks do this is they might be collecting the order funds offline, and they're just using the designer to place orders, but they're going to actually just bill the customer using a custom line item later just for one giant invoice. So that's a great workaround to get the order placed, and then you can just create a proposal with a custom line item for the total amount. So that's a functionality that you have. So we're going to click on arrange payment later and click on continue, and it's placed an order. So an order's been placed. Now let's take a look at a couple things within the store here. I'm going to go into my store admin, and I'm going to go over here, and let's take a look at some of these settings. So my order settings. You notice this store is shared with Printavo. Do you guys see that? I've toggled this on, and so the order is shared with Printavo. I also, where it says require order approval, I have not enabled that, but if I enable that, I can say, hey, requires approval on all orders, orders for set dollar amount, orders that have not captured payment yet. So if we were just wanting to collect orders and give them that option to pay later, we could check on that. And what's nice about doing it that way is those orders will just all sit in the approvals functionality. Once you're ready to start processing them, you just approve them all. And in this case, because they're synced with Printavo, as soon as I approve the orders, they're going to sail into my Printavo account. They will not move into Printavo until I've approved them. They'll be on holding. So if you have a store that's set up and you're going to bill them all at the end with one big invoice, that would be a great thing to do, is say, check that box. Orders have not yet been captured for payment. Just hold them. But in this case, I don't have order approval set up, so we're going to turn that off. And I don't really have to save anything in here, but under shipping methods, you know what I am going to do? I'm going to drag that one above, so that becomes the default shipping. You're using the store cloning function to make sure all of the settings that are in here are the way you want them to be in the subsequent store. And bear in mind, the store contact owner is going to be cloned as well. And you got your store branding in here. If you do clone a store, easiest thing to do is just swap out these logos, and super easy to change the color within the color scheme within the style editor. But we've got this store all set up. I'm just going to save and publish there. And let's take a look at that order. So you'll notice if I go back to the order manager right here, and I'm in the order manager in InkSoft, I go back in there, this order is going to come right directly in. You'll notice that there's a couple things in this pending approval, because some of the salespeople have orders that are pending approval. And let's say this is one of my orders, and I did want to log a payment. I would just go in here and I would say add payment, and we'll just say this is going to be cash $191.90. I could use ACH if I wanted to, but we're just going to log that payment. So I've got that recorded. And then I'm just going to approve the order, and the order is approved. If you reject an order now, you have a lot more granularity in terms of rejecting. We should probably show you that real quick too. I'll go and approve another order. And that order, just because it's with a store that was linked to our Printavo, that's in Printavo now as soon as I approve that. We'll go over to this one real quick, and we're going to do a rejection on this one. So if we go to reject, we have some new capabilities that were recently added. You have a kind of a general catch-all rejection reason. It was just canceled where you don't have to really provide a reason, and then we can reject that order. We didn't have that ability before. Item was recently discontinued. This is going to sit in here until we get some resolution from the customer. So here's the most recent orders that I created. You notice that when I approve from Chang, that's sitting over here. And then I've got some orders now in Printavo. Now, something very important. When you're getting all of this set up, and I'm just going to go to the InkSoft dashboard, you'll notice over here, you have a little button that says Printavo accounts. This is where you'll log into your Printavo account to connect. So my Printavo account is Blue Shirt Printing. I connected it. That's what's enabling me to have that sharing going on. Now, if I don't connect the Printavo account, it has no way of knowing that InkSoft orders should be flowing into Printavo. There's no way of knowing that. We have the accounts connected, but on a store level, I'm only sharing specific stores. We have a lot of demo stores in here, and I don't want all the orders that are floating through my demo stores automatically being pushed into Printavo. So I don't want to click this button on. If we toggle that off, then we have to choose what to do next with those orders that were in Printavo. So we either need to make them null, return them back to InkSoft, or one of those two things. But you do get the option of deciding what to do with them when you stop sharing an order. But with my orders that were created through that East Eagles account, those orders are all going to flood back into Printavo. So let's take a look and see what actually happened. So I'm going to go into Printavo, and this is a bit of a change. So we have the Storefronts area. In the past, the only people that would see this Storefronts area were people that had Printavo premium plans. But now every single user, regardless of their Printavo level plan, can see the Storefront section. And it just kind of explains what the section is, what it does. So we've exposed that so everybody, regardless of their plan level, can see what's going on in here. You'll notice when I go to Printavo merch over here that you're going to see all my Printavo merch stores. Let's talk about what a Printavo merch store is, and let's draw some contrast between Printavo merch stores and the possibilities and the things that you can do in InkSoft. And probably the easiest way to do that is actually show you what it looks like to create a store. If you're going to create a store, you just say new store, and then you have these little files. You upload the logo, any kind of information, what you want to call the store, a description of the store. It's always going to be a URL Printavo merch, so it's always going to say Printavo-merchant. It's not like InkSoft where you can redirect that to the school's website. So it says eastboosters.org/merch. In Printavo merch, it's always going to be that URL. You have some settings over sales taxes, closing and ending dates. You can put a store contact in there. I've selected this particular person, who happens to be me, as the store contact person. So it's fairly rudimentary. There's not a lot of flexibility in here. You can't put a password protection on the store. It's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. So think of a Printavo merch store more as like an online order form. I think it's the best way to do it. But let's take a look at that store and see what it would actually look like. And so I'm going to go over here to more actions. This store is actually live, and I've got no sales have come through it. So I'm going to go over here and click on View Store right here. And here's my store. So it's pretty basic, nothing too exciting. I did use the same banner. Here's the products. The only really customization I can do is add a little fundraising banner in there. But this is it, and for a lot of our customers, just having a simple way to collect orders and an order form is, adequate to their needs. These stores are not going to look flashy, but they're perfectly functional. And so if somebody wanted to place this hat order right here, those orders are going to go into my Storefronts area just like any other order. And so add to the cart, pick quantities, checkout, all that stuff. So in terms of functionality, Printavo merch is a great way to get started in selling e-commerce. but it's nothing like an InkSoft store. You're not going to have all the different customization and modules available to customize that store. It's not going to support custom HTML. You're not going to be able to embed an art portal. It doesn't have an InkSoft designer, but it's a good way to collect orders. Its functioning is exactly how it should be, which is to collect orders and function as an online order form, which it does a great job with. But if I go to Storefronts over here and click on the InkSoft tab, guess what? Now I have all my InkSoft stores, and they are absolutely syncing with all the orders in InkSoft are syncing with Printavo. And it says, hey, I've got a new order that I need to process. So it's letting me know there's a new order that I need to process in here. That order came in right over here. See that order? It's a pretty big order. And what I want to do with this order at this point is I want to go in and convert it into a Printavo invoice. And you'll notice there's some things going on with this order. Number one, it's got 1, 2, 3 lines on it. These products all have different, looks like 2 of them have the same graphic. One has a different graphic. One is, they're all full front. They're all kind of individual orders over here. So that's kind of what's going on over here. And if I want to convert that into a Printavo invoice, all I really have to do is just click on this and hit add to invoice. Now, here's the thing about this particular set of orders. This could be an InkSoft store, and these are just flooding in over time. So think about it like this. If you have orders that are going to flood in over time, you got a couple different options here. You could just, set it up so they all require approval, and they just sit in the InkSoft order manager, and then as soon as you approve them all, they just flood in here. Or you could just leave them in here, and then when you're ready to process them all together, you could do that as well. But there's another option now. And the other option now is if I know that what this invoice number is, and I convert this over. So I say add to invoice. This is going to convert it to a Printavo invoice. So if I just click that, I can add it to a new invoice. But if I already know that there's another invoice in here, I'll have all my other invoices that got converted in here, and I can just select it and combine it. And so it's a really neat way to just kind of combine orders. So I don't necessarily have to leave them all over in InkSoft and then approve them to move them in here. I could just kind of move them in as I go. Or what I could do is just leave them all here in the store and then check them all together and move them over. But what we're going to do is we're just going to add that to an invoice, and it's going to be a new invoice, and I'll pick a customer. We'll just pick my good friend Eddie, and you do need to pick a customer to assign it to, so you do need to make sure that your InkSoft customer list has a corresponding customer in Printavo in order to do this. So we'll just hit create invoice real quick here. And that invoice is created. And guess where it's going to show up? It's going to show up in Invoices. Here it is right here. And you notice it says new InkSoft order. Let me explain what's going on here and why it says that status. This is a change. So if I go over into Storefronts over here, and I go over here to the cog, when we're configuring stores, this is where we configure those settings. I can set the status. This will be there automatically. That just says, hey, new InkSoft store order is going to be the default status of every order that comes in from InkSoft. But I can assign it to other statuses too. I could create my own status too. Please review InkSoft order and set a task up that automatically pings the art department as soon as this order comes up. So by allowing you to set your default status, that taps into automations. And so we can set up a status that triggers an automation to maybe notify the art department or maybe throw the order on the power scheduler. I'm just using the default status, automate ready to ship pickup. What that means is when I choose the status completed orders closed in Printavo, it's automatically going to move that order back into InkSoft for pickup. It's just going to automatically do that. So something that's very key to understand is if the order starts in an InkSoft store, whether it's a proposal or it's the designer or it's been displaced through a store, the order has to end in InkSoft. So the fulfillment part, the shipping labels, all the shipping, that's going to conclude in InkSoft. What we're using Printavo for is to manage the production. But let's just go ahead and get out of here and let's go back to that invoice and let's kind of get it through the rest of the process. So I'm going to click on it. There's a couple things I need to do. all the artwork came over, all the notes from the designer came over, colors, everything, print locations, method of printing, the name of the file that was in InkSoft. I can download this render file from InkSoft. This is just a kind of a PNG preview here. It looks really good, but this is not your production file. This is just for reference. But I do need to assign an imprint, because here's the thing. We don't know necessarily at this point what my method of decoration is, because I might choose to pivot to DTF transfers depending upon the size of the order. These are all one-offs, so these would probably go into my direct film printer. You know, I have a roll-fed direct film printer. I'm going to print out 3 transfers, slap it on, or I might do DTG printing, up to me. Now you'll notice no pricing information is exposed here, because all that money stuff is happening over in InkSoft, so there's no reason really to have any pricing availability. But all the production dates and everything are coming over from the InkSoft based on the lead time I set up from my store, and I think my store is set up with a 2-week lead time. What I need to do in order to get this updated with the imprinting, I just need to go over here and go to Edit, and then for each line item, I'm just going to go over here and say, hey, this is going to be screen printing. I'm just going to pick a screen printing workflow. If I want to update any of these notes, put in ink colors or anything special, I can do that. And then this one, we're going to do DTG. Go over here and select DTG as the workflow. Why is that important? Because when I save this order now, what's going to happen is it's going to use a different workflow when I send this over to the Power Scheduler. Because right now, what's going on with this order, it's just sitting here, and it's in like a holding pattern. And that holding pattern is new InkSoft order. So in order to move that down the standard order journey, what I really need to do is pick my next status. So think of statuses here as just the standard journey of your order. Our statuses are very heavily customized. They're customized based on a real shop. You notice everything's color-coded. All these kind of blues and teals are quote-related. Red means stop. Your green means money needs to either be collected or has been collected. Everything in the orange range here is going to be related to the art department. And then over here, anything that is in the purple means it's in a production process, and anything in gray or black over here simply means that it's ready to be picked up, ready to be delivered, or completed order. So we've got quite a few statuses in here, and all the ones with rocket ships all indicate that there is an automation. So this is set up really nice. It's very simple. It's very streamlined. This is my standard journey. And the next part of my journey on this order is going to be right here, ready for art department. So we clicked on that, and you notice it set up a task. And that task is to have the artist review the art. I'm going to have Elaine do that. I could have the automation set up to automatically send that to Elaine if I want to. But I'm just going to set up that task, and then she goes and grabs it, and she does her thing, and then she just says artwork approved. As soon as she said artwork approved, it's like, wow, all the screen department stuff just got tasked in here. And she's actually, looks like she's responsible for all the screening too. She's a busy person. The mixing of the inks, we're going to give that to, let's see. So Ellie's she's the lead artist. She's going to now be the ink mixer. And actually she's going to burn the screens too. So we'll have Ellie burn the screens and some of this other stuff because Elaine's really backed up. So we'll go and assign this. So they're getting messaged that, hey, you got new work to do. And so this is just the way that they manage their tasks. They can go into their tasks. They can see all the tasks, all the things that they're responsible for. And I can add a custom task, or there's preset tasks in here too. But what we're going to do next is we're just going to pretend all this stuff got done. And so we're going to check it all off, all these tasks. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move it into production. So I'm going to go over here and click on pre-production. In my Printavo account, what happens as soon as I move it into pre-production, it throws these jobs onto the Power Scheduler. So everything that's on pre-production gets moved onto the Power Scheduler. And you notice these are segregated by the process. So we had one of these products we were going to DTG print, and the rest of these we had set up for screen printing. Okay. So these are on the Power Scheduler. This is just a different way to look at the production. These orders are on the calendar. I could look at them on the calendar. Production due date is the 15th of November. The customer due date is the 18th. So if I go over to my calendar and I scroll forward and look at the 15th, this is going to be just sitting there waiting for me. So here it is on the 15th. And if I want to move it, I can move it. I can do all of that. So that's one way to kind of keep an eye on it. If I click on it, I can see kind of that high level detail. And I'm going to check off all these other tasks there. That's a pretty easy way to check off those tasks there. And that's one way to look at it. But the power scheduler is a little different because where are these landing in the power schedule? They're landing in unassigned. And they're landing on a queue by process. So let's look at the DTG one first. So we're going to go over here to DTG, and we're going to take a peek at that. There's our DTG order. And it's sitting in unassigned. And maybe the first thing I want to do is take a look at it. I'm going to put that on my brother machine. So I'm going to go over here to station, and I'm going to put that on my brother machine. Now it's going to disappear out of unassigned right here. So it's going to disappear. So now you know where it is. It's over here under my brother machine. These are all the micro steps for DTG. I got to prepare the art. I got to prepare the garment. So I might have to pre-treat it. I need to print it. And then there's a QC step over here where I have to do some quality control. And here's my invoice status right here. So this is a different way of doing tasks for the production department. I don't have to create specific production tasks for the production department. They can just go in and look at the power scheduler, and they can see everything that's going on, where we're at with all the jobs. And the coolest part is I can assign some time to it. So this is just a one-off, so it's probably going to take 10 minutes. And that's why you charge $25. And then I can drop a date in here too. Now, if I drop a date in here, what's going to happen is it's automatically going to move it onto the date. But I could also do a little drag and drop action. So if I want to, I just want to take it and drop it in here. We can drop it in here. Now we got 10 minutes of time on the brother. It just gobbled up that time, and we've got 590 minutes. And once you get to about 20% of capacity remaining, that little green arrow is going to go to yellow. Once we're at capacity or have exceeded capacity, it's going to be red. It means stop. There's nothing more can go on this. And you know what? No big deal, because all I got to do is just drag it onto Tuesday. So I just go over here and say, hey, let's move it down here. I can split it. There's only one unit on here, so I can't split it, but I could split it if I wanted to. And why would you split? Because you had a big order and you want to finish part today and part tomorrow? Or a rush order came in and you wanted to split half of the order off so you can finish the rush order. And the second half of the order is no big deal. It's not due for another 3 or 4 days. So you have that instant flexibility and visibility, and everything's scheduled via drag and drop, but it gets cooler because we're going to go over to screen printing now, and we're going to see everything that's in my screen printing queue. And we got a lot going on over in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that screen printing job and do the same thing. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to assign it to an auto. So now that's sitting on auto 1, and now I can just drag and drop it into position. But there's another way I can assign it, and another way to look at that, and that's these views. And so I'm leaving group view and I'm going to list view. This is super duper handy because now I can see all of my screen printing jobs together, all their production due dates, and most importantly, kind of where we're at with them. So I can see, well, that's received. That's got a sleeve platen selected already. Screens are done. We haven't done the ink. Ink is ready. And then over here, printing hasn't been started, but now we just finished the printing and we're done. This is going to indicate to me I don't have to do anything more here. This is all completed. And what's neat about it is you can set up your own little views. So I'm looking at it globally for everything. If I'm in the screen room, I only want to look at the things that are like part of my things. And so if I go over here and I can see, oh, well, we haven't gotten started. I'm a little bit behind. Oh, there's one that's flagged with an issue. Should probably take a look at that. And I'll go over here and I said, hey, we're finished with the screens. Guess what? It moved it out of here. So it automatically moved it out of here. I know it's done. It's off my list. This one right here, off my list. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Off my list. So I only have to look at the stuff that's important to me. I go over here, I go to receiving. I'm in the receiving room. I only have to look at the things that really pertain to me. Same thing with any of these statuses. When I'm done printing it, and this is like the final step, hey, I'm the printer. I just mark it as done. And it's still on the power scheduler because, you know, we can go back and look historically at everything that's been moved over. We're not deleting it off the power scheduler. Things take themselves off the power scheduler because the date ranges change, right? I can see that it's done. It's green. It's done. In the list view, it's in the finished status. It's green. It's done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. So what I really want to see over here is green. I want to see in that end column for finished, I want to see that everything is green. And then I can go and move that status over here and change the columns. And you can set up all your own little views if you want to save a special view, if you want to reorder columns, if you want to pin a column. You've got just all of this kind of granular level control. And it's just an absolutely awesome alternative to managing off of tasks. So what are the tasks really? Those are the tasks. Those are all the things that are important right in there. It's that granular view. So if you're not scheduling on the Power Scheduler, there's one of two things that have happened. Either you don't have a Printavo premium account, so you don't have the Power Scheduler, or you weren't informed as to how it works and how useful it is and the vast superiority of scheduling on the Power Scheduler versus the calendar. I would say scheduling on the calendar, you don't have a lot of order volume. Maybe you're only doing 2-3 orders a day. Maybe you don't need to really use the Power Scheduler to manage that. You can just work off the calendar. But the biggest problem it would have solved for our printing business, which is the same kind of problem that every printing business has, is capacity and lead time. If I have 2 pieces of equipment, and let's say my 2 pieces of equipment are my automatic press and my manual press, and if those machines are running back to back, I tear down one job, I start the next one. I tear down that one job, I start the next one. Guess what? I'm maximizing my production efficiency, which is reducing my lead time. I can ship more products over a shorter period of time. But if I have long gaps due to all these micro tasks not being completed, so I can't start my next job, then I have lower production capacity and longer lead time. And so when I hear customers talking about, I'm going to buy another auto, I'm going to buy another embroidery machine, the question that I always ask them is this: how are you scheduling? Do you have gaps in production time where the machines are sitting idle? Because if you can alleviate those gaps, guess what? You'll shorten your lead time, increase your production capacity. And sometimes people ask me, well, how do you do that? I said, you use the Power Scheduler. You spend the time to learn the feature. You commit yourself diligently to using the feature, and 2 really super awesome things are going to happen. Number 1, you're going to have good visibility, because if somebody's dropping the ball, boss is going to be able to look into the screen room and go, hey, what's going on here? Why are we backed up? The other thing that's going to happen is you're going to shorten your lead times because your machines are running back to back to back. And then you're going to increase your production capacity. You don't necessarily have to buy more equipment, and you can actually scale and grow without having to invest in more people or more equipment. These are some of the things that I've learned about the Power Scheduler that I always like to share with you guys. Is it's a really pretty incredible tool. I don't know why you wouldn't use this. It's just the greatest way to manage your production. We've gone through the order. Everything is cooked through the system. We printed it. It says finished in the Power Scheduler. And then we want to bounce this order back to InkSoft. Really super easy. It finished production. Maybe we move it to a status. Production's complete, right? So production's complete. We know that. And now what we want to do is kind of send it back to InkSoft to finish the rest of it. I don't have to pick any of these statuses over here at all. All I got to do is click on this one, complete orders and closed, because remember, I elected to choose that feature that automatically moves us back to InkSoft when I select that status. So let's boogie back over to InkSoft and take a look at it. And it's in ready to ship. There you go. And by the way, this is a hypertext link right there. That's it right there. We're done. We finished this thing. This is an absolutely super duper awesome way to process these orders. Thank you very much for joining me today on the webinar, and we'll see you on the next InkSoft Academy.